It's time for Black and White, a show that wants to bring all of us together, talking again about the issues that concern us. It's time to hear from people who only want to deal with facts. It's time for you to re-engage in your right of American free speech. It's time for Black and White. Welcome to this edition of Black and White, and joining us today is a person whose company is going to be a major sponsor literally on every program on our network shortly after the 1st of August. And it's Ira Brzezinski, who is a longtime investor in precious metals. And I'm a registered investment advisor, have been for almost 50 years. Many of you know that because of the commentaries that I write. And I decided, and I've been reluctant because I hadn't found anybody or any firm that I was comfortable with putting my name behind and the company name behind and all the other programs, that if they weren't really square shooters. And I met Ira and talked with him on several occasions, talked to the people that he's worked with, and he's just a terrific guy. And Ira, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Dan. It's a pleasure to be here.
My pleasure. My pleasure. I want to start off with a simple question. Mm-hmm. Why gold and why Ira?
Great questions. It's when someone, when I have someone who's interested, one of my customers in purchasing gold, I always put that question back on them. Why gold? What are you hoping precious metals can do for you? Gold in general, gold's been around for 5,000 years. It's stable compared to other investments, and people see it as a store of value. If you look at what's happened in the markets recently, and you can really look at any time period. And I like to look at the dot-com boom. I mean, I've been around since 1980 in the business world. I've seen the Jimmy Carter inflation. I've seen the crash of '87. I've seen the dot-com boom. I've seen 2008, 2020. I've even seen, in 95 to 2000 with the, what was it, exuberance or something, irrational exuberance, as Greenspan said. I experienced that as well. So I've got a lot of background for things. So I like to look at the period from the dot-com boom, which was in spring of 2000 until today. And I talk with people and I said, well, you look at the Dow Jones or the S&P up until, a couple of months ago, they doubled since that time period, for the 22 years. I mean, that's pretty good. During the same time period, gold went up 4.5 times compared to just in general, not even compared to anything. And historically, when the dollar goes down, when the stock market goes down, the metals go up, especially gold. And if you look at the period 2008 to 2011, gold doubled during that time period. And stock market, Dow, S&P were down 40 odd percent. NASDAQ was down a lot more. And we're looking back at the dot-com boom, the NASDAQ dropped 60 or 70% between then and before it bottomed. Then it bottomed in 2014. So between 2000 and 2014, if you were in the stock market, you had dead money. It didn't reach those old highs again for 14 years. Yeah. So that's where gold comes in.
I was managing money during the dot-com boom. I've been managing it, as I said earlier, for close to 50 years. Mm-hmm. And my son, my number 2 son, called me from George Washington University, where I was in college, and he was working on a class project of talking about a business plan for a startup company, and these students at most of the major colleges and universities had their eye on the dot-com bubble. They were graduating from college and go get a job at an emerging market company and make a fortune and retire at 35. And he called me and he said, we're thinking about this business plan and the product and everything. And I said, that's fine. He said, Dad, do you buy dot-com stocks? I said, and my son's name is Nathan. I said, Nathan, I've never bought any company stock that had no earnings and was selling at a multiple of 300 times projected earnings, it's not gonna pay off. So my clients who I was managing money for didn't participate in the dot-com bubble, either direction, up or down. And so it's part of the problem, and what you demonstrated with all those periods of time is, yeah, gold, silver, platinum, all metals have some volatility to them. But on the longer term basis, they tend to be more stable and more predictable with desirable returns. And so, why did you get into business?
Great question. So my background, I was an institutional stock trader for many years, a compliance officer. So I have that financial background. And I saw the, if you will, to use that expression, the writing on the walls in the institutional market. To where can I benefit people and also use my financial expertise? And I looked into precious metals and I said, this is a fit. This is great. And the customer base that I have just keeps growing and growing, and it's testament to my instincts and my thoughts were correct.
I believe that, and I understand that. I think the audience needs to understand there are differences between the celebrities that are hawking gold on television or the radio and Ira and myself. What you just heard from Ira is a very important statement. You got to look at many, many different things in deciding the strategy that you want and what precious metals you want to deploy. And sometimes you may want to have gold, and other times you may want to have silver. So what we're going to do is that we'll have a link on our homepage of blacksandwhites.us, which will be a bar of gold that our listeners will just click on the bar, and it'll take them directly to you, so that they can have reach out and have a dialogue with you and find out whether gold is the right thing for them and what kind of gold. So speaking of what kind of gold and possibly gold alternatives, when we come back after this break, we're going to talk about some of the alternatives and how appropriate they may or may not be. So we're speaking with Ira Bursansky, who's going to be our gold guru for the Black and White Network. And we'll be
Hello,
right
this
back.
is Dan Perkins, executive producer of programming for Blacks and White Network. We are pleased to offer the opportunity to express yourself on important issues of the day. We are launching B&W Free Speech Question of the Week. Every Monday, we will ask you, our listeners, a single question, and you vote the answer to the question. You will have an opportunity to vote a simple yes or no, and if you want, you can share more about the answer on the website. We will encourage open discussion about the issues. On Saturday, we will announce the vote results. So stay tuned. Watch for the launch of B&W Free Speech.
Welcome back, and we're speaking with Ira, our gold guru, and we're going to move to a little more specific types of questions. Ira, there are a number of ways that an individual could play or participate either directly or indirectly with gold. One is the actual ownership of the bullion.
Mm-hmm.
And you take the bullions and you put them in a press and make a coin. And then you have paper transactions like ETFs and stocks of the actual mining companies. And so, but the area that I want to open this section about talking about is what was being touted as the replacement for gold, and that was Bitcoin. I did some numbers, and in the last 12 months, the Bitcoin price has gone from 67,000 to 22,000. It's down 68%. That's a horrendous loss. So there are losses that you can recover from, and there's some losses that you may not have enough time to ever recover. I am very concerned about the proliferation of Bitcoin by people who really don't know what they're talking about. This may not surprise you, but the largest holder of Bitcoins in the world is the United States government. There are many governments around the world who have indicated over the last few years that they want to replace their currency, especially currency that's backed by the dollar, with Bitcoin. They have taken a tremendous beating. Over the last month and a half, 3 major companies who were major players in the Bitcoin business went into bankruptcy. The money's gone. Billions and billions of dollars of investors' money is absolutely gone because there was no tangible asset behind it. So click on a computer link. So I look at it and say, the idea that a Bitcoin is going to replace a precious metal, gold or silver or what, platinum, whatever, is ridiculous, because it's a bit on a computer, and there's no government behind it. There's no asset behind it, no full faith and credit authority behind it. So that's why I think it's become so volatile. What disturbs me the most about recent bankruptcies, Ira, was one of the funds came out a couple of years ago and was selling itself as an equivalent to a money market mutual fund with a stable value every day with liquidity. It went to zero. It lost everything. And people who put money in that thinking that they had a stronger equivalent to gold by using a Bitcoin as a vehicle for a money market mutual fund lost everything. And while gold prices can go up and go down, I've never seen a price, you correct me if I'm wrong, where gold went to zero. Mm-hmm. But Bitcoins have gone value to zero. So Ira, talk about the different kinds of ways in which our clients and listeners can participate in gold with you.
Well, it's the physical, tangible metal itself. So there are 2 ways to purchase metals. One's what we call the cash buy, where you would wire funds in, we do the metals consultation, and the metals are shipped directly to your home. And you store them however you want, safe deposit box, put them in a sock in your freezer or whatever, a gun safe, whatever you want to do. The other way is you can roll over all or part of a retirement account, an eligible 401k, IRA, 403b, etc. And then by IRS rules, the metals need to be stored at a third-party depository, which I work with 3 of them. These depositories are insured for $1 billion each by Lloyd's of London. So the metals aren't stored at your home, but they're in these depositories. Over the years, many years, never heard of any issue with any of them in terms of security, safety, anything like that, or else they wouldn't be in business. So even though it might not be on your premises, it's in a very secure facility. And from what I understand, before the issues of the last 2 years, I understood you could actually go and visit your metals at the depository if you feel like taking a ride there. I don't know, vacation trip. So that's the 2 ways to purchase metals. And when you do it through the retirement account, you're set up with a self-directed IRA custodian, just like a custodian you would have now for whatever your investments are. And they do all the paperwork, etc. And relatively simple process. They do all the heavy lifting for you. I help out as well. Great way to invest in metals, either way. And a lot of people do both.
So is it possible, Ira, that you could buy bullion in a non-IRA account and have it custodied someplace else, like a depository institution?
Absolutely. You could purchase it and use one of the depositories to store it instead of storing it at your home or a safe deposit box or somewhere else. Absolutely. That's what they're there for.
But it doesn't have to be an IRA to do that, a regular account.
That is correct. It can be a regular account. You
That's
can, yeah.
that's one of the things that always concerned me about people who said, "Well, I'll just have them ship it to my house," and I'd say, "No, I don't think you want to do that. No matter how much you have, you don't want to keep it at home. You want to keep it someplace where you know it's safe and secure, and you can get at it if you need it. But the idea of putting it in a safe or a sock or whatever, or in the shoebox in the closet on the third shelf, it's crazy. It's not going to it's not a smart way to handle it. But the idea that I've seen a lot of stuff about the gold IRA, and I heard what you just said, but nobody's talking about the idea that you can use a depository institution to store your gold or silver or precious metals and not be in an IRA. And I think that's important.
Yeah, it's good point, Dan.
So how do you feel about Bitcoins?
It's on a server. It's minted by a computer. Gold is the physical, tangible. You can hold it or have it in a depository. A Bitcoin, as you said, there's no backing behind it. They had the different, was a stable coin or whatever they were. Yeah, it's just as you say. I'd rather have something physical and tangible than something that's on a server somewhere.
That could go down.
That could go down. They say the metals go up and down as well, but so there's nothing to back this up. And we didn't touch upon this, but when you're talking about Bitcoin and countries looking into it, there's the digital currency that some central banks are looking into, even here in the US. And there's such a downside there regarding privacy. Because if they have a digital currency, they're going to want to know who has the currency, these governments. And with the metals, I don't report anything. I don't have to. They don't know what you have. That's in the non-IRAs, because then it's a retirement account, but that's different.
But that's important that you have the privacy of your transaction. By the way, that's not true if you own stocks and bonds.
That is correct, because there's registrars. So the company that issues the stock needs to know who owns it for proxy voting, etc. So you're recorded, you're registered, they know who you are.
So do you have a particularly typical way in which people buy gold from you, for a certain style or a certain package? Or
they, as I mentioned, they'll either, depending on their own circumstance, they'll either do the cash purchase or they'll do the retirement rollover, or both. Those are really the two ways to do it. And I may have mentioned, when I say cash purchase, it's not currency cash like dollar bills. It's wired funds that come in, and I do that for compliance purposes.
So do you like bullion, bars versus coins?
It depends on the customer. I like to look more towards the basic bars. A lot of the customers want a coin, and there's different types of coins, gold and silver. You have the coins minted by sovereign mints, such as the US Mint, the Canadian Mint, in South Africa, Austria, Mexico. They have a bit of a higher premium because they're from a sovereign mint. Then there's a product called a round, and that is made by a private mint, but it still has 1 troy ounce of metal in it. So it's the same thing, but and again, I always put it back on the customer. Do you want something from a sovereign mint where it's minted by a government entity, or do you want something that has the same amount of metal in it that is the same thing in terms of the value of the metal?
But if I buy a coin, an American Eagle gold coin, I'm paying more for the coin per ounce than I am if I just bought a bar.
Correct. That's why I like bars, and bars have size options. In gold you have the 1 ounce, the 10 ounce, the 100 ounce. Silver you have the 1 ounce, the 5 ounce, 10 ounce, 100 ounce. You can go higher, but that's usually a good range. So you have different options. You can even get in gold a kilo bar, which is 32.15 ounces, I believe. So you have lots of different options in terms of the size of the metal.
I've seen stories, and as we're almost done with this segment, I've seen stories where bullion bars are hollow or have other metals other than gold in them. When people buy gold from you, how do they know that it's getting 100% pure gold?
They pray. No, I work with very reputable suppliers. They've been around 40, 50 years. They're family owned. And if there was ever a problem, they would be out of business. And they don't want to do that. Plus, if it goes into a depository, the depository screens the metals that come from my suppliers. So it's either going to be like a spectrometer or another way that they test it. So it's absolutely secure. And if I sell you metals, maybe you go have them tested, test them yourself somehow. I'm not sure exactly how that goes. You send them, go to somewhere else where there's a testing facility, maybe a university or something. But it's always never ever had a problem. In all the years I've been in this business, never ever had a problem.
That's one of the reasons why I've told my clients for years, if you take physical possession of the bullion, in order to sell it to somebody, you have to have it assayed and prove that it's pure gold. And that's an expense. If it's in a vault somewhere, not an issue.
Mm-hmm.
So buying that. So unfortunately, Ira, and we're going to have you back from time to time. Let me finish with this one quick question.
Mm-hmm.
What's going on in the world that is concerning you and suggesting that people who are on the edge should be considered buying gold?
So much. There's a long list, and people have seen it in the news. There's inflation. There's war overseas. Whenever there's war, gold, people gravitate towards gold. You've got recession coming on. I've been through, as I mentioned, since 1980, the different stock market gyrations, and when the markets go down, inflation goes up, markets go down, and here's something that people don't realize, and I bring this up all the time. We are a fossil fuel driven economy. We will be for many, many years to come, regardless of how many solar panels or electric cars are out there. And when the price of oil goes up, the economy goes down. And you're seeing that now over the last couple of years, the last 6 months anyway. In a couple of days, the GDP for the second quarter of 2022 is going to come out, and it's going to be down. We're going to have 2 down quarters in a row. That's a recession. And oil went from $40, $50 a barrel to 120. Now it's in the high 90s. I mean, it's there. Look at the charts. I mean, just history repeats itself.
Ira, thank you so much for joining us today, and welcome to the Black and White Network.
Thank you.
We'll be right back.
Hello, this is Dan Perkins, your host on Black and White. You've been listening to the current Black and White program, on which I had a discussion with Ira Brzezinski, who is our gold guru and who will be helping you make a decision as whether or not gold investing is appropriate for you. To find out if gold is right for your portfolio, go to blacksandwhites.us, and on the home page, look for the gold bullion bar. Click on it and it will take you directly to Ira, and you can start a discussion with him about the suitability and appropriateness of buying gold for your cash account or for your retirement account. Take this opportunity to talk to someone extremely experienced and knowledgeable about gold and its pluses and minuses and how it can fit into your portfolio. Contact is free. This is Dan Perkins. Dan Perkins, your host on Black and White. You've been listening to the current Black and White program, on which I had a discussion with Ira Brzezinski, who is our gold guru and who will be helping you make a decision as whether or not gold investing is appropriate for you. To find out if gold is right for your portfolio, go to blacksandwhites.us, and on the home page, look for the gold bullion bar. Click on it and it will take you directly to Ira, and you can start a discussion with him about the suitability and appropriateness of buying gold for your cash account or for your retirement account. Take this opportunity to talk to someone extremely experienced and knowledgeable about gold and its pluses and minuses and how it can fit into your portfolio. Contact is free. This is Dan Perkins.